Hey, it's Rich, the Louisiana Hobby Guy. And today I've changed my format, if you haven't noticed, the last couple of videos, and got more focused based on user feedback. So this is not going to be videos, upcoming videos are not going to be about me and what I do and, the projects that I make and be self-centered, I guess. It's going to be about helping you. I'm going back to my roots, like the first videos that I made where I'm just teaching the software, and occasionally I'll throw in maybe a product review or something like that. And in this video, I'm going to cover 5 topics. And those 5 topics, it's going to be a short video, and I'll put timestamps down below if you're only interested in one or the other. We're going to start with number 1 is going to be constraining and aligning shapes. Number 2 is going to be copying along a path. Number 3 is going to be mirroring across a line, which I think a lot of people have never even noticed that particular function. And then number 4 is going to be using the circular array tool and making a clock face as an added bonus. And hopefully by the time you finish this video, you'll have a better idea on how all of these 5 functions work, and it'll help you with your workflow in Lightburn. So without further ado, let's jump into Lightburn. Let's cover these 5 features. If you're only interested in one, hit one of the timestamps down, click ... more, and you'll see the timestamps. Click on whichever one that you're interested in, and let's get started. Come on, let's go. Okay, so let's answer a couple of questions today, and the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the gear icon up here at the top. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to take away this show work area center cross, and I'm also going to turn off my grid contrast so that all of the little boxes there go away. And this, I'm told by some people, this makes it easier for them to see what I'm doing. And the first thing I'm going to do is constraining shapes. So let's grab a rectangle tool up here, or a square tool. I don't know why it's called rectangle. It's a primitive shape. Let's grab a primitive square, and let's hold down Shift to draw a perfect square. Now if I let go of Shift, you'll see it turns into a rectangle. So it's actually both rectangle and square, but just holding Shift turns it into a perfect square. So now we have our perfect square. I can press Escape to get off of it and select it, or I can just come back up here to the selector tool. Now let's grab another primitive, another square, and let's just put it on here to the line, because this was a question that I had, was aligning one shape to another. So now if I click and start dragging, you'll see that whatever direction that I drag in, it's going to draw that shape, that primitive shape. Even if I come across the line, it's going to draw either a square or a rectangle depending on how I drag this. But you can also mirror this across the line. If I hold Control, now I'm holding Control, and you'll see that I now get either a rectangle or a square that I can drag out. But if at the same time while I'm holding Control, I hold Shift, now I have a perfect square that I can draw along the line. Right now I'm holding Control and Shift at the same time. If I let go of Shift, we'll be back to the shape that you can drag in any direction. Holding Shift is a perfect square. So that was the first question that I had, was drawing the shapes on here. So let's just do that one more time. Pass your mouse over the original shape, grab the primitive that you want. Let's grab a circle. Get your mouse over the spot where you want it, and you can use these numbers up here to help you out if you zoom way in. Get your line up, and I'm zooming by rolling my mouse wheel. You'll see that you can get some really close numbers. If I push down on my mouse wheel and drag up, I can drag the whole screen. If you don't have a mouse wheel, you could always grab the little hand tool to move this, which is these arrows right here. So this actually now you can left click and move the screen, or you can use your mouse wheel, one or the other. So you can use these numbers right here to help you with a guide, but we're not going to do that. So let's zoom back out to our selection here, back to where we were, and actually I had that one selected. So we're going to come back to the circle tool now, pass it over here anywhere, click and drag, and you'll see that now I have been dragging out an oval or an ellipse. And if I press Control, you'll see that it now mirrors across that line on both sides. If I press now with Control held and press Shift, it turns it into a perfect circle. If I let go of Control, it drags it on the outer or the inner, wherever I'm dragging, but it's still attached to that line. Pressing Control again will mirror it across the line. Letting go of Shift will let me mirror across the line in any shape. So that is number one. So now that we've got that one done, let's get on to question number two. And question number two is, what is this little thing over here for? This is a starting point. This is how you can set the starting point of your shape. So let's grab another square, hold Shift, draw out a perfect square. Now we already know that there are 4 nodes in this because this is a perfect square. If we come down here to this little tool and click on that tool, it will show us with a little arrow right here. So this is our starting point. And if you didn't want the starting point over there, you could click on this corner and you see that green arrow moved up to the top left corner. Or you can click any corner that you want to set your starting point. If you pass your mouse over this and hover, you'll see it says Set Shape Start Point. Shift and click to reverse direction. So if we didn't want it going that way, we could Shift, click, and make it go the other way. So lots of little tips along the way. If you just pass your mouse over the icon, and it will tell you what that icon is and what it does and how to use it. Okay, so now that we've got our square drawn, let's talk about copying along the path. And I've had quite a few questions about this, and you'll see that we can just reuse this square that we've got here. So let's just draw something to copy along that path. Let's just take another primitive. Let's use a circle this time. We'll draw out a perfect circle, select it, and then we'll zoom in a little bit here, and I'll snap it right there to that corner. And do you see how that snapped in there? So once my cursor goes from that red arrow that you see to a bullseye, that means that it snapped into that corner. So order of operations, we want to select this circle first. We want to copy this circle along this path. I'm holding Shift. So I'm going to select, hold Shift, select this one. By dragging from right to left, we're selecting anything that we touch. We can't do this. If we select that one and then drag, hold Shift and drag from to the right, it won't select the other one. So to select from dragging left to right, everything has to be inside this box. Anything inside, completely inside the box, will get selected. By dragging from right to left, anything that it touches will get selected. See how it selected everything? So I pretty much do most of my dragging from right to left. So we're going to select this circle and mirror it, hold Shift, across this path. Actually, we're gonna copy it along this path. So let's come up here to Arrange up at the top left, and let's come over here to Copy Along Path. When I bring up this dialog, it's going to bring up, I have it set to 4. That was the last time I used it. It's going to remember that. And we've got now 4 shapes. So remember, this square had only 4 nodes. So the only way that we can get perfect copies along this path are with multiples of 4. If I put 6 in here, you'll see that it's not going to copy them properly. But if I put 8, we have perfect shapes. And if I put 12, we have perfect shapes. So it doesn't matter what you do here, as long as you're in multiples of 4, you're always going to get perfect shapes. It depends on how many nodes you have in your original shape. You can also determine what the space between the copies are. So if we were to change this to 30, you'll see that it's off again. It will automatically set your space between copies, but if you needed, for instance, to have a certain space, let's say 15 millimeters between copies, or let's do something easier. Let's go 5, 0, like that. So we now have 50 millimeters between spacing. Now your number of copies will change. So as you go up, you'll have to go up an increment at a time until you find the exact number. And that's going to be 16, which will automatically change your space between copies to make this correct. So you can either do a number of copies or you can do a spacing between copies, one or the other. You can't do both of them. So again, to get even numbers, when you have 4 nodes that you're working with, you're going to want to be in an even number, an even multiple of 4, excuse me. So if we go to 16 or if we go to 12, whatever the case might be, we're going to have exact spacing between them, and Lightburn will determine that spacing between the copies. Okay, so now with a clean slate, we're going to talk about this icon up here that I don't think I've ever seen anyone ever talk about, and that is mirror the current selection across a line. In order to do this, I think I'm going to turn my grid back on. I'll put it on a low contrast and say OK. So now we've got our grid back on, and let's say that we started with a line tool. And we start right here, drag this all the way down to here, click. We still have the line attached, we're still in line tool. To get out of that line tool, we're either going to press escape or right click. So now we've right clicked and we have just the line. We can select just that line. Now just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to grab a circle tool. And if you see I have the bullseye, I'm right on that circle tool, but if it turns into a complete X right there, that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to hold down Control and Shift and draw out a perfect circle from the exact middle of this line. So let me do that one more time. If I move my mouse across this line, you'll see that right now it is just single line. As I get to the center, when I hit the center, it turns into an X. That means I'm directly in the center of that line. So while I'm in the center of that line, I will click and drag, and then I'll hold down Shift and I'll hold down Control to get that perfectly in the middle. So Shift constrains it to the line, as we talked about earlier. Control mirrors it across the line, and now we have a perfect circle on that line. And let's say, for instance, if you were trying to create a bullseye, for instance, okay? So let's say we wanted to draw another line. Let's grab the pencil tool and let's go right to the center. You see how it turns into that X, and we're going to use this guide point right over here. You can press Alt at this point to get the guide right where you wanted it. I want it right there, so I'm going to click and right click to get off of it. Now when I go to the selector tool again, I want to draw another one on this side, and typically what I would do is press Control and the letter D and mirror it, right? But there is a third mirror feature over here that we've never talked about. Well, I've talked about it once, but that was buried in another video somewhere, so to find that would be almost impossible. So I want to mirror this line, dragging right to left, selecting this line, to this line, across that line. So I'm going to hold shift, select this one. I'm going to mirror this line across this line. And that's what this tool is for over here. So when we click that, we will get an exact copy going across that line on the other side. So let's grab a square, another primitive. Let's put this on the line right here. Hold down shift, drag, hold down control to make it perfect. No, that's not what we want to do. We want to draw it on this side like that. And now we have that. So now we can hold shift, select this line, and do the same thing by mirroring that one across the line. So basically what we're doing is using this as a toolpath. So if we were to put this on a toolpath, and then we can draw our shapes, and we can have perfect shapes on both sides of that line. And when we're done with the toolpath, hold shift, click over here on the cuts and layers on the toolpath, and click the delete button or press the delete key on your keyboard. And now you can see we have perfect shapes. So that is the purpose of mirroring across a line. Let's select all of these and delete those. And now let's take a look and see how we can use this practically. So I'm going to draw out another line. This is already on a toolpath, T1. And now I'm going to draw out a shape. So let's say a couple of shapes. So I'll just hold shift and I'll draw out a couple of circles like this. And select these, put them onto a layer, and let's say that we wanted to have this on this side as well. So we'll group these together up at the top. With those selected, we'll now click this line to select those and the line, and we'll hit that mirror. And now you can see if we delete this line, we've got perfect copies going across that line. So it's just a way for you to be able to duplicate items and space them perfectly. So the closer you get to the line, the closer they'll be together here. And it is a great tool that I probably don't use often enough. So we'll get rid of all of these now. Now let's look at the advanced toolbar up here in Lightburn. So most people, when they first start, are going to have the regular arrange toolbar, like you see right here. And it's going to be up top here where this long toolbar is. These two are the same toolbars. I think sometimes people misunderstand what I say when I say it's better to have the arranged long. And the reason why I say that it's better to have the arranged long is because with the arranged long toolbar, you don't have to use drop down menus. So if I select both of these and get this toolbar lit up here, you'll see that there are down arrows on the corners over here of all of these icons right here. And up here there are no down arrows. You see that? So when you select one of these, it says align selected objects horizontally. And if you click on that, you can align them to the top, you can align them to the center, you can align them to the bottom. These are drop-down menus. So let's say we wanted to align all of these left. Well, without having to pull that drop-down menu up here, I can see this visually right here, align left. If I wanted to align these again to the top, you see that I have to pull down the drop-down menu here, or I can just visualize this up top. So these are the same menus. This one is condensed, and it makes it harder to use for some people, and that's why I suggest that you don't use it. So I will get rid of that. If you right click on the white space up here, right here, this is what you'll have selected by default, arrange. So I just turn that off by clicking on it. and then I right click again and I turn this one on by clicking on it. And you see there's a check mark there. Anything that's checked means that you can see those tabs in your view here. So if I were to select something that doesn't have a check mark, you'll see that it now appears here in my tabs. So file list. And then if I turn that off, it goes away. And if I turn off shape properties as another example, that goes away and my tabs get smaller. But here I wanted to talk about something different on this toolbar. So let's say that we just drew out some random shapes like that. After we've drawn it, we said, well, you know what, this would look better if they were all the same. Well, you can select all of these here and come up to your toolbar, and now when you pass over this, you'll see make selected items the same width, and you can visualize that in the icon. So now we've made them the same width. Now we can make them the same height like that. And to take that even a step further, we can distribute them horizontally on centers, and we can distribute them with even space between them. And now with them all selected, we can come up here and align them like this, and we have 4 perfect squares now. So if you ever had a question as to some of the shapes that you've drawn that you thought were supposed to be the same shape and they weren't, this toolbar up here can really help you a lot when changing those shapes to make sure that they're all perfect. And finally for today, the last most requested comments that I get from my viewers and emails and messages is having a problem with the clock face and the array tool. So let's grab a primitive and draw out a circle, pretend that that's a clock face. And what we'll do is we'll grab a text tool over here and we'll just type out the number 1 and select it. And with it selected, hold shift, drag over that circle and come up here and align this properly. Now we can just take and grab that number and move it to about where we think it should be. Let's say we think that right about there is good. And with that number selected, we will go ahead and grab the outer circle so that we have both selected, and order of priority matters here, so we have to select the number first. We want to align the number to the circle, shift, and come down here to the array tool. Let's click on the array tool and bring this dialog up, and we want to have 12 copies here. So we're going to type in here, number of copies is 12, and we now have our 12 copies. The biggest problem I think that people have, and sometimes I like it better this way, is rotating objects around the circle. So once we get to the 6 and the 9, it's not going to look right. So we don't want to have rotate object copies around the circle. So we're just going to do that. I'm just going to say OK. And now all I have to do is go to the text tool. That one is OK. So I'll click into this one, backspace that out, and I'll do 2. Oops, I'll do 2. Come into this one down here and change that to a 3 and all the way around. And that's the way that I do my clock faces. So I'm just going to get rid of these and show you how I would do the tick marks instead. So let's grab a primitive up here and let's just draw one out. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to align it to this so that it's perfectly in the middle. Move it up a little bit and maybe make it a little bit smaller like that. And now with this one selected, I'll hold shift, select the outer circle, and come back to the array tool once again. And this time we want to make 12 copies because it's 12 hours, so that's perfect. This time we do want to rotate these objects around the circle. So that is the difference, is this rotating objects. So now we have our 12 hours. And we could even go a step further and we can add the minutes just by selecting this one here, pressing Control and the letter D to duplicate it, and then sizing it to the size that we want. So we could size it like that, and that way they will align all the way around the top. Or what we can do is we can unlock the shape, come in here and put divided by 2 and press enter, and it will be in the center. So now we have that center tick mark selected. I'm going to hold shift, drag over the outer circle like that, come back to the circular array one more time, and instead of 12 copies this time, we're going to do 60 and say OK. I haven't actually figured out how to do this without leaving these in here, so I just go through these manually and delete them once I'm done, one at a time, and this way we can have our perfect clock face. So I'm not going to delete all of these for sake of time for the video, but I just wanted to cover that, and that is how I would make my clock. And you could even add the numbers afterward if you wanted to, just by putting a number below it, but I think you get the idea by now. So that is about it for today. So are you still here? If you're still here, you're one of my diehard subscribers, and I really appreciate that. And your support by watching these videos and giving me these watch hours has pushed my videos out into the feed of thousands of people and have gotten me to that 75,000 subscriber mark, which just baffles my mind. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for staying and watching these videos, and hopefully you're going to like this new format that I'm doing, where I'm concentrating on what you, the viewer, wants to see based on your comments in the video. So leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think about this new format or things that you'd like to see. I am paying close attention to the comments, and I'm reformatting my channel. I'm actually reverting to what I did in the beginning that made the channel so popular, and that is concentrating on how to use Lightburn instead of concentrating on the projects that I do. Now, I'll still throw a couple of those projects in every once in a while, but again, I'll throw in a couple of maybe product reviews and things like that along the way. But the main focus of my channel from now on is going to be you guys, my subscribers and my patrons. So thanks again for watching this video today. I hope you enjoyed it, even if you didn't watch all the parts. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.